so exciting. No, I don't need the mic. I'm loud. Maybe.
I'm Ryan, grateful covered addict.
Ryan.
Hi, my name's Gary. I'm an addict alcoholic, the recovered variety.
And we're here to talk about sex. Just kidding. Right?
Oh. That's fun. Okay, so you want me to lead?
Are you leading?
Ryan's gonna lead.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, what fell? I can lead. Whatever you want.
The love actually fell.
Okay, so we're here to talk about sex inventory, sex problems, what we do basically today. We don't want to get, I'll talk for myself. Personally, I'm not going to speak in detail of what happened, but I'll talk more about it. Is a work, so don't ask me questions, okay? Most people know already. So, but yeah, like, you know what it's like today. What do I do now? What do I do now in terms of sex inventory daily in my life? How am I living this thing? That's mostly, I think, where we're headed. Right, Ryan?
We will see.
We will see.
Yeah.
Right there?
God's got a
direct us.
plan.
All right.
God's got a plan.
Your turn.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Gary. I'm an addict alcoholic, the recovered variety. This is interesting. I've never done this before.
Yes.
I've done lots of sex inventory, though. Here it is, right? This part of the inventory process I thought was going to be simplistic, very easy, because I was like, this isn't even going to be that big of a deal. And then when I start when my sponsor gave me these sheets, and we're reading page 69, well, bottom of 68 to the end of 70, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, this could be a little interesting. And then I start writing down, what I had done and who I had hurt, but not only that, why I was doing that. And I get down to the cause and effect, and the fact that I was really just trying to fill myself with outside validation, or I was trying to fill myself with women's interests who I didn't even really have any interest in. Right? And I get to the end, and I'm like, okay, this is it. And my sponsor at the time, he was just like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, just recently, last year, I switched sponsors, and I learned about this thing called the sex ideals, which I've read about 100 times in the big book. And I actually got a chance to write out my first sex ideals. And as I was writing it out, I realized that I was in a very horrible relationship that didn't meet any of my sex ideals. And after I filled that out, I couldn't live with myself. And I actually chose to live in my car and from my friend's floor and in an Airbnb instead of living in that relationship, because I was causing harm to that person and myself. So that's how powerful this thing can be if you do it properly, right? And that's kind of been a little bit of my experience.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I want to add something. So as you're talking, things are starting to happen in my brain. Like for me, it wasn't, I caused the most harm when it came to sex. The most. During my using, but more so when I didn't have crack or alcohol or anything else. More so, even more. Right? And so... And then when I'm looking at the sex inventory, it tells us, or it asks us, what did we do? And then what is the exact nature of my wrongs? Like, this goes back, was I selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? This goes back, it's not like, I need sex, I'm going to do it now. Like, I want your boyfriend and I'm going to take him. It wasn't like a malicious, rah. It was just like, selfish, I want this and I'm going to get it now because I am so empty inside that I needed to fill it. And that was the fastest way that I knew how to do it, from when I first started secretly talking to men in the basement. My parents were up, when I wasn't allowed to do it then. It was dishonest from the beginning. I acted out dishonestly because I so badly wanted to fill this complete vacant hole that I had inside of me. So now what I've learned throughout this process over and over and over again is that when I have this vacant home, when I'm not filling that with God or with inventory, with keeping my side of the street clean, guess what? I'm calling you, I'm pulling that back in. That is the fastest thing. Next is crack. But first, my first go-to thing was always men. Been to Codependent, been to, what's that place in Pennsylvania? I went there. I had a crack pipe in my suitcase. Anyways, I told my parents that it was the codependency, right? But that was first and foremost, that was before any drugs and alcohol. That was like from 12 years old, and I started using drugs at 18, 19. So, right, for me, that was my number one filler. So, like, when I did a sex inventory this time around, during my first year, I lied, I omitted things, right? It was dishonest. And guess what? I kept doing those behaviors then. I'm clean and sober, no crack, no alcohol, no pills, no nothing, but I'm still like acting out in the behaviors because I'm completely empty. And those behaviors and those actions of dishonesty is keeping me blocked from the power. So I'm walking around and I just continue doing it. And I'm harming this person and that person and this person, which I am like completely not like, look what I did. I really harmed people a lot and myself. And the more I was doing it, the closer I was getting to smoking more crack again or relapsing. That's my experience with sex over and over. And I have some women I've worked with and they're like, I got nothing for this. And I'm like, I can't work with you then. Like, I don't believe you, but that's okay. Like, my sponsor shouldn't have believed me either, right? When I was like, this is all I have, 2 people. 2, just 2, like, and so that's, I'll stop. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, Gary. Ryan, recovered addict. So in Bill's Cleverness, page 69, at this point in the book, I've worked through poison number 1 and poison number 2, and I'm getting to 3 now, but sex, many of us needed an overhauling. And I'm like, shit, they got me again, And this book knows me, and like Sonia and Gary have mentioned, I am taken hostages in relationships for my entire life. It starts at a young age. The crazy part is, just like the drugs and alcohol, I have no idea why I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm chasing this euphoria that you are providing me, and go figure, in order to get you to listen or to pay attention to me, I'm gonna need that, like, the drinks and the drugs that make me better looking, and you should see me dance, right? And then I'm on the dance floor. I remember going into the bars and I'd be like, I gotta drink these 3 and do this so I can catch up. You've been here an extra hour, and then I can get out there, and then it's like a target at the end of the night. And I don't know why I'm so focused on this end result of it's not a relationship, this end result of sex, okay? And what I'm looking for is still, Sonia mentioned it, that filling that void inside, the same ease and comfort that you're gonna provide for me. And I don't actually, at the time, care what you need. I'm not thinking about you. I'm selfish and self-centered to the extreme. I'm not going into the situation thinking that. I'm probably going into the situation, play the tape forward, my favorite saying. Not my favorite saying, but play the tape forward. I'm like, we're going to marry and we're going to like ride horses and unicorns into the sunset, right? And then tomorrow morning, I don't even know where I am in your bed, Like, okay, this is just how it goes on repeat. And then that feeling the next morning of that guilt and shame, similar to the drugs and the alcohol and whatever it is. I'm getting that feeling, so then I got to go escape the feeling, right? And I'm thinking, as you guys are talking, some of the experiences I've had in the past where it's that behavior, okay? So just like the drugs and alcohol, it becomes the only normal life, It becomes the only way I know how to live. So I'm sitting here in guilt and shame, so much so that these relationships I'm having, I'm scared to look at my children, okay? And I'm feeling guilty, and until I can get into the conversation through text or something again, I can't escape that feeling. But once I'm in the conversation, I now have ease and comfort, and all the ability to lose or to make decisions goes, right? So I come into this, and there's quick questions. Whom did you hurt, And the list is a lot. And then we say in the big book, the relationship should be submitted to this test. Is it selfish or not? And I remember sitting in treatment and somebody said, when was the last time you asked them what they needed? And I was like, never. Never once, you know? Not intentionally and not truthfully, at least. And I don't even know this stuff. So this inventory allows me to see, you know, this question, do we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? I'm like, did I have a relationship where I didn't do that? I don't know, you know? And that's just how it goes. Did we harm someone? And I don't really think I'm doing that till this inventory, just like all the other poisons, okay? I don't even know I'm doing it. And I'm here today because cocaine brought me to a place where I was told it wasn't the problem. I was the problem, and here's why. And it was laid out on this piece of paper for me, you know, and then I have to look at these things. Where am I being selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate? I'm similar to Gary. I didn't have an ideals written until... Is Dan in here? Because if Dan's in here, I have to be truthful. So I didn't have an ideals written till, like, I don't know, in the last 12 months. It's just not something I did. But it says in the book, we use these relationships to shape a sane and sound ideal moving forward. Then the book also tells me I'm going to screw it up. Yeah. Are we going to get drunk? Are we going to get high? You know, not so if I'm willing to grow to something better. Yes. Okay, so I don't use it as an excuse to continue the behavior. I'm going to shut up now. I'll just keep going. I'm rolling, so you guys go.
Roll.
Pass.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Hi, my name's Gary. I'm an addict alcoholic of the recovered variety. Right? Gary. So I told you, right? I had this ideal, and then I go into this. I have to leave this relationship, and life happens, and I continue to show up for employment and my friends and my sponsees, and life is still happening, and right, but I get lonely. Right? Just like everybody in here, man. How many people here are under a year? All right.
Nice.
Keep it in your pants. How many people in here got more than a year? Right? No. Leave the newcomer alone. Because they're the ones. Right? They're the ones. You know, when a guy gets lonely, or a woman gets lonely, right? What do they look for? Mm-hmm. What does an addict look for? Something easy and fast, right? And who gets hurt? The newcomers. They die. Right? Stop sleeping with newcomers. It's disgusting. You're killing them. Right? That's real stuff. That's real talk. And if you're doing it, you should really call your sponsor. You should really call your sponsor and run yourself through some serious inventory. Right? Don't be the reason somebody dies today. That's all I got to say.
And that's it, because that was just that's okay. And he brought it home real quick. Mic drop. Yeah, funny. Dan is also the one that got me to write sex ideals. So that I didn't know all three
situation.
of us. I know. He's the first one. I think, like, the first couple times I did, but again, like I was really dishonest with it, and then after this really big thing I did happen, I really had to do this work. I was in danger. I had caused all kinds of harm, and Dan was like, you know, have you ever written a sex ideals? And I'm like, what's that? Like a list of, so, and fast forward, like it's 6 years, and like 2 months ago, Dan's like, so maybe you need to change, right? Like it's constantly changing also, right? So as I'm changing and I'm growing on this path, or I'm like spiritually, I believe, you know, and things are falling off, and these new miracles are happening, new experiences are happening. Oh wait, I'm seeing different. Something's changing inside of me. So all of a sudden, this thing that I said it had to be like this, you know, or whatever, this ideal that I had written out, I'm like, that's absolutely not. Like, or this needs to be in there, right? And Dan, like, told me this one day, and I was like, oh. He's like, when's the last time you updated that or whatever? And I'm like, I'll do it now, right? But so that's been really helpful. What else was I gonna say? We earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance, right? Or you know, when it tells us on page 70, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation. So like, I know when something is questionable now. Like I got the feeling this isn't right? And before I'd be like, fuck it, here we go, right? And I would do it anyways. This is like 2 years clean, by the way, right? When I hadn't really done the work, I didn't have that connection with God. I was faking it all over the place, and I was super sick. Now, or the past 4 years, let's say, when that questionable discomfort, I'm feeling uncomfortable feeling comes up, I need to ask God for his strength. And what do I do in this situation right now? And then I do it. Some people get hurt. It hurts their feelings. Feelings get hurt. Like, it happens. My feelings get hurt too. You know what I mean? And rejection, all these things. But like, we have these tools. We have God. Hopefully, by this point, right? You have a connection with a power that's going to keep you strong enough to plow through that. Right? I've been broken up with, I've broken up with, I've been dumped and and like these things hurt my ego, really. They hurt my ego. I have a really big ego. So I'm like, how dare you? What do you mean? Meanwhile, like I have Dan to remind me being like, didn't you want to end that like 3 weeks ago though? Like what is happening? Remember that conversation, Dan? So it's I don't know, like, right? And people in my life who are close enough with me who know and who are honest with me no matter what. Jane Ann's one of them, right? Kim, Dan, these are people who will be like, wait a second, what? Like your perception's completely, and it's true, like it is. I'm fucked, right? Like I'm so fucked. And so I have these people in my life to remind me, yes, I have God, but like I have these real life people and friends and connections in my life to call me out on things, like all the time. You know what I mean? But I remain open to that. I have to. So, handing it over, Ryan.
Nice.
I'm just going to touch with learning here as we go. Okay, so what should we have done instead? This is the only sheet that I did in the inventory process where I had to pick a new ideal moving forward. The rest I get rid of the defects, I do all the work, and this one it's a work in progress. Like Sonia said. So this thing, I'm still learning here, and this extends. And so one thing I want to mention is, I don't know where I got this, but in the inventory process, this extended out beyond intimate relationships for me. And I'm going to give you an example of how that works. It's most likely with the opposite sex, but if I'm treating women in the workplace differently than I'm treating men, that is sex conduct for me. And that grows my relationship with others as well, and this is part of what I have to learn to do. And I'm going to tell you, I worked and I had the blessing of working at a treatment center, and I don't think the big book says you're not supposed to work with women, and thank God I didn't read that in the big book, but I was nervous about it because of my past. And then I was in a place, Gary mentioned it, like I'm protected by God and in CA where I could do that work in a treatment center and not cross any lines. And if you ask anybody close to me, they'll know if you put me in that role of helping and service, there's a Bill's humor again, right? If sex is troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into others. Like, a little bit of humor there if you pick up from me between the lines, but it does actually work, and that taught me a whole new level of relationship between man, woman, intimate. And so I'm learning this entire time from these relationships more about me. Okay, and I'm not lonely today. So much so, I don't know if you guys have seen my kids kicking around. They have a hard time when they're gone. I have them every other week, and they say to me, they're like, well, you're not lonely sitting home? I'm not lonely at all. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I couldn't say that, I don't know, a year ago. I couldn't say it. A year and a half ago, whatever it was. So this is what I'm learning in these relationships. It's not worth taking hostages so I can fill this void. And Sonia mentioned it. I always have a warning thought before I enter a behavior that is harmful to somebody else. Okay, so it's like that first drink. I can't choose. Okay, so I have this thought, it comes in, and like, maybe this time's going to be different.
Yeah.
You know? And so my action is to go to God. It's the same thing here. This is where I grow. And then that gives that experience, and it turns it into an opportunity to move forward. I need to shape new ideas, and I need to back them with action, like everything else in this program. And it's teaching me too. I said this once before, I don't even know where it came from, but it's very true, is that I don't mean to be an ass if this is going to come out like an ass, but like I'm looking for a lot in a relationship, and it's going to have to be spiritual. You know, like you're not going to dangle sex. It's not going to work. I'm not interested unless it's, you blow me off the wall spiritually and maybe you get in my pants. I don't know. But that's very different than before. It's true. It's very different than before. Like I want to have some conversations and some connections, and and I got God, and that's what he wants. He doesn't care. He's already seen you naked, so. Anyways, I'm going to pass.
That was good. Nice, Ryan. Awesome.
Should we talk more?
Yeah.
Where are we at?
All right. 20 minutes, 45 seconds. We got more time, eh?
I was just let me just say something really
Perfect.
quick. Sorry, Gary.
I'm
So,
fucking perfect.
like when we, oh, now I forget. When we're doing this, like when I'm doing this thing, and that thought, that first thought. So it's been a really long time since I've been since I've harmed in this way. Since I've caused harm, which means that this thing has been working in my life. The only way, there's amends or whatever, there's things that haven't been able to be made, I'm willing to make, right, that they haven't been made yet, but how can I make it right still? How can I still, by not continuing or repeating those same behaviors? And I did it in a big way twice. To two people, right? In a very harmful. But since then, I have not done it. And that is a miracle. That is a miracle. That is an absolute miracle, because that's the only thing I would do. He's like, oh, perfect. My mind doesn't go there anymore. It's wired differently. That's crazy. And so when I sit down and I'm like, oh, wow, it's been I don't even see like that. And people might have fears or whatever, there's stuff going on. But when I don't know, I no longer am like, she's me, or he's again.
Jesus.
Whatever it is. Someone the other day is like, are you a lesbian? I'm not. So I just needed to put that out there.
Jesus Christ.
It's sex inventory.
I love this.
But it no longer enters my mind. It actually doesn't. Just like the obsession of crack and alcohol has been removed, it no longer enters my mind that it might be a good idea to start talking to this woman's husband or ex-husband or boyfriend or a past partner or future partner or someone that a good friend of mine likes even. You know what I mean? Talk in a way of hey, you know what I mean? That it doesn't enter my mind anymore. That is God. Because that's the only way my thought process would run. That is the God honest truth from the pit of my being. And that is so amazing to me. You know what I mean? This program, that's what it tells. It's all our problems, right? It helps all our problems. It teaches us how to live life. It is a tool and designed for living. And that part of it for me has been so monumental. Such a weight lifted off when you're constantly walking around being who's next? You know what I mean? Really, in my head. I was so selfish, self-centered. I was oh, this is easy. Any little, so crazy, so destructive, right? So, sorry, Gary.
Wait, sorry.
Go ahead, because I felt like I cut you right off.
God damn it.
I know.
Hi, my name's Gary. I'm an addict alcoholic in recovered variety. She didn't cut me off. I had nothing to say. But I do now. Yeah, you know what is a miracle? Sonia talked about a miracle. Ryan talked about it being a miracle, right? When I'm doing something wrong, I feel it in my guts. Either it be harm to somebody, disrespecting somebody, which is a harm. I feel it right here in my guts. right? Because I have this connection with God, and He lets me know, hey man, you're fucking up. He doesn't swear. My idea of God, He doesn't swear. But He tells me I'm messing up. Right? And then I have these beautiful things called these inventories I get to go over, which most of them I got memorized, and I can step 10 it right there. What am I doing? And if I miss it at nighttime, I can 11 it with God. Then I get to do an 11. Okay. Right? And then I get to call my sponsor, Dan. And if he doesn't answer, I'll call Kim.
Yeah.
Right? Dan also got me to do a Sane Sound Ideal. So all three of us, we blame Dan.
Yeah.
For ruining our sex lives.
Yeah, it's all Dan. Dan did it.
No, but that's the thing, right? That's what this amazing process gets to do right? We get to do this, and it gets to change us. And it's not like the three of us, we're not special compared to anybody else. Any three of you that are recovered from this thing could have got up here and probably would have said the same thing. You might not have been as abrasive as me, right? But you probably would have said very similar things, right? If you thoroughly and honestly went through this and shared it with your sponsor and shared it with God and chose to live by the ideals that you decided were sane and sound, any one of you could sit up here and say the same thing, and not just say it, but play it, live it. You got two tongues, shoes, mouth. I could run my tongue all day, but if I ain't running my tongues in my shoes all day, what do I got? Right? It's all in the footwork. Action, action, action. I could write these papers out all day. If I'm not going to follow, what should I have done instead? What's the point of being here? It's like sitting in a 12-step meeting and not having a sponsor. Choosing not to do the steps. I mean, it's great. I'm glad you're here. Keep coming back. Right? But I promise you, you're not going to feel as free as I feel if you don't do what I did. Right? Thorough and honest from the start. Trust God, clean house, help others. Thank you.
Where are we at?
2716.
Yeah.
Questions? Question and answer?
Oh, Dan.
Dan.
Dad?
Dan!
You guys maybe give an example. I'm not too sure how you come up with this chosen ideal. What is it all about? How do you write it?
Wow. Really? Who's done one the most recent?
Shit. So what I did was, hi, my name's Gary Maddock, alcoholic and recovered variety still. So what I did was I wrote out this sex inventory, and I looked at past sex inventories and looked at what I should have done. And I also looked at some of the resentments that I had towards women in my previous relationships and what they had done. And obviously it was mostly my fault because I held on to it, but I mean, I don't want that to happen again. That's part of my Sane Sound Ideal. And I start writing it down, right? How should I be acting in a relationship? Yeah. What am I looking for in a partner to act in a relationship, to show up? How do I want them to show up? How do I want me to show up? I had no physical attributes, but it was all mostly mental, emotional, and spiritual. Right? Because when I started getting into sexual attributes...
What the fuck are you people talking about?
Hey, Brian, we talk about sex.
Talk about sex, baby.
Sex. Brian's fucking us up.
Who, you? Not me.
All right.
Nice.
That was good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Aww. You done?
I prayed too. I prayed a lot through the whole thing. I prayed, I let my pen hit the paper, and I wrote it out. That's what I did.
Thanks,
Gary.
So Dan did tell me to write the physical things.
Nice.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't tell me that
He's
shit.
like, you should even write the color of his eyes. I think he was just like, what do you mean? he's like, you need to get really detailed. And I got like mad at Dan. I was like, what do you, anyways, right, Dan? But I did it, right? And then he explained that it's like, these are 5 that I can do without, but these are 5 that I can't, you know what I mean? That need to really be there. But these 5 I can, you know, so the eye color, you know, but yeah, that was super helpful.
Thanks, Sonia.
Thanks, Sonia.
Ryan, recovered addict. You know, there's a question that I have to ask, which I didn't ask in any other relationship, which is, how do I want somebody else? How can I be unselfish in this relationship? And so my intention going into a relationship is how I could be of service. And that's going to change that ideal, because even me coming in being like, I'd like this, this, and this, it's like a Santa list, you know? And I have to try to balance both of these out. And I'd never asked that question before. Am I great at it? Absolutely not, right? Because I'm telling you, I'm the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning. And this ideal has led to honesty. So I started to get honest. That was the key for the list. What do I want? Can I provide it is a good question, you know? So can I expect to receive it if I'm not offering it? No, that's what this sex conduct has taught me too. You know, I'm looking for things from you that I'm not giving to me, which means I can't give them to you. This has all been part of the learning. And so can I show up in a relationship, like Gary mentioned, Sonia too, the way I would like you to show up? Can it be reciprocal, you know? Can we both show up together? And at the root of it, can I be honest? And you know what this has taught me, doing this work, is even if I'm in a situation in a relationship, I can at the very least be honest. If I'm unsure about the relationship, I can say I'm unsure. You know, so I don't have to be like, oh yeah, we're great, you know, and that just piles my problems. So maybe, like Sonia said, feelings get hurt, but I've learned from this ideal, I would like somebody else to tell me straight up, which means I'm going to have to tell them straight up, you know, it's just that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Good one.
Really good. Kim.
Oh.
Yay, Kim, sponsor
Hey, Kim.
number 2.
Hey, recovered bride. Here's my question. My question is, once you guys are doing your sex conduct, you're looking at your part and stuff. Can you 3 talk a little bit about how you formulate your amends?
Ooh.
Like a success. I can talk on this one.
Me?
I can.
Oh, okay, good.
Do you mean formulate like,
Well,
and it happened, or we're ready to
When you're
go?
when you're ready to go.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about what your experience is with that.
Okay. So, like Ryan said about the brutal honesty, I was selfish when I was inconsiderate when and like going into detail, I harmed you when I did this to you. Your family was affected, and I'm going to give something. So I made an amend to this one person, but I left so much out of the truth. And so what I did is I manipulated what the book said. If it's going to harm them, then you don't tell them. So I'm like, I got to leave this huge part out, and the main part out, but I'll tell them these little, I was flirting, and that's what I did, right? And that just caused so much more harm. So when I've gone back now and I've written it out that way, and I've been brutally honest with myself, with my sponsor, and I've become way more willing. I wasn't willing when I was being dishonest, when I was writing it out. I was being dishonest with myself, with my sponsor, and I'm like, I did it. What do you mean? I made the amend. And it was complete bullshit, right? God knew that. That's why it came out. Like, the truth will always, prevail, right? So that's my experience, is like brutal honesty. And I do, like, I write, if I have a sex inventory and it's like, I did this, I did that, and there's like 7 different actions that I've done for that one person, and the fish actually this goes back, taught me, and that's how I do it. For each one of those actions, I'm looking at where was I selfish, where was I self-seeking, where was I dishonest and afraid. I don't group them together. I was never taught to do it that way. Even if they're all the same, I still write it out with black pen. I still write every single one for every single harm that I've done. Single action. So I'm able to look at it and be like, oh, wow. Right? There's the dishonesty, there's the fear. And like the what comes from that, and that's how I get sponsees to do, and like nobody likes doing that. But like better than killing people and like smoking crack, right? I'm free, so that's how I do it.
Thanks, Sonia.
Yeah. No, thank you.
You covered a ton, so the only thing I'd like to add there is that from experience is my ability to listen when I say, how else have I wronged you? It's one of the hardest parts, because me going in there thinking that I understand how I've been selfish and taken this hostage is still selfish. So to be able to hold space, to hear somebody else's feelings, and what I've seen is it actually allows them some freedom too in that amend. They might get it, I take the bit in my teeth and the other person's side of the street is disregarded entirely, which means that they might actually have a little bit of freedom in saying some of the things they might have wanted to say to me. And if I'm going to be honest, like Sonia said, then they're going to be allowed to be honest as well, and I'm going to receive that, so just add that.
Yeah.
Let's see what I can add. Hi, I'm Gary Manick, alcoholic from Recovered Variety. I've made amends to some women, and I had to bring a friend with me. Right? I was in a relationship at the time, and that person would not have been happy if I'm sitting in a car or a coffee shop or someone's house or anywhere really with this woman, with this other woman or these women. So I bring someone with me that's trusted, usually a recovered member of this thing. Sometimes it's just my best friend Jeremy who saved my life because he had my back and he would pull me out if it got a little crazy. And he would also the people that I would bring had no problem holding me accountable to what I'm doing. Hey man, that's kind of flirtatious there, bro. I did that, prayed a lot, right? I don't know what more I could add to what these two just said. Made sure to explain where I'm selfish, where I'm self-seeking, where I was inconsiderate, where I was dishonest, where I was, even fearful. And I make sure in all my amends to explain on how I plan on not to do that again. Right? Always. And Ryan said it, I listen to what they have to say. Even though that sucks. That's the shittiest part of the amends. The other part, I'm pretty cool with, man. I'm like, you know what? I fucked up. I already did fuck up. Or I fucked up. I know I fucked up. But listening to this person tell me, hey, but you know what? You broke my heart. You know what? You broke my children's hearts. That is hard. Right? You ruined my trust. I don't trust men now because of you. To hear that kind of stuff, that's the pie. Humble pie, they call it, or something. Yeah. Right? That's, and it sounds crazy, but that's freeing. Okay, and that's why I keep doing this thing. Thanks, Mom. Right? Keep doing this thing. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Such good questions. Chris, you got a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have a question. So I would like to know, as sponsors, how you redirect your sponsees to their ideals list instead of having a straight pepper diet opinion or a no flavor for a spare, right? And how we stay out of that controversy. So how as sponsors you approach sex ideals or sex problems with your sponsees.
I tell them to call you, usually. Have you talked to Jane Ann yet? I'm just kidding. I love you. Like, I actually sometimes, so if this happened recently with somebody, and if I've already directed them and gone through the part again and brought them back and brought them to their sex ideals list, and we've done it, and they're just like, no, like that's not. I actually do. I'll be like, I suggested somebody go call another recovered member and ask her experience then. You know, I don't know if that was answering your question, but as you were asking, that's what came to mind. You know what I mean? Or when they're like, yeah, so I met this, and they start with the, and I'm like, just stop, right? Like, just stop. Have you asked God first? Because I don't know why you're calling me. And the minute, like, sometimes, you know, and I learned that from Kim. Like, I don't call Kim, like my sponsor, Kim, I don't call her unless it's already written out, done, ready to go. When can you meet, Kim? And she's like, I have this slot of time. And it's already ready to go. I've written it all out. I just need to get it out so she can be like, okay, here it is. Right? So when sponsees, like I cut that quick, like at the very beginning, and some of them don't call me anymore, and some of them are just like, oh, I found another way, and that's cool. Like, but I'm very like, this is how I do it. This is how I've been taken through. This is how I've done it. You know what I mean? So right at the beginning when they're like, so, and they start with the dramatic, like that stuff, I'm like, I can't. I didn't do it that way. I'm not a therapist. It's not like nowhere in this book does it say that I can give you my opinion of what you're doing or what, like none of it. And that's what they want, right? Or they want the validation, or can you believe like they did and it's like they want to pull you. That's that disease, right? It's like, no, it says right here, let's go. And if it continues, how am I being helpful to them, right? I don't know. That's what I do. What do you do, Jane?
I'll tell you what I do. Hi, my name is Gary. I'm an alcoholic, recovered variety. I'm pretty direct. Just saying. I redirect them to their ideals. When they start telling me something that's not aligning with the ideals that they've shared with me, and I don't remember them all, but I do remember the majority of them. They're usually being honest, faithful, truthful, like. And I asked them, how does this aligning with your ideals, right? I'll give you an example. I had this one guy, he kept sleeping with these newcomers, and he had a wife, and it was really messing shit up. And I finally just got to the point where I was just like, man, like, what are you doing this thing for? What are you doing here? How's this aligning with your ideals? Are you ready to do inventory? Are you ready to make amends? And he said, I don't think I need to make amends. I don't think I need to do inventory. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I said, okay, cool. Please stop calling me.
Yeah.
That's it. Right? That's what I did. And I had another one. I have another example of a guy. He was a couple months in, and he was about 6 months in, and he got through this thing. And he was also sleeping with lots of newcomers. And I told him, he asked me, what do you think about this? I said, do you want my opinion? Or do you want me to tell you what's in the book? And he goes, I want your opinion. I said, I think you're a sex offender. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said, you want me to tell you what's in the book? He said, yeah. I said, you need to follow your ideal. You need to pray to God and ask him if that's what you need to do, if you should continue to do this. And he goes, that's pretty harsh, man, what you said there. I said, you asked my opinion. That's my opinion. Most people know that if you ask my opinion, I'll give it to you. Right? And, we sat down, we prayed. He came, we sat down, we did some inventory. We prayed on it really heavily. We sat down and did meditation. And it's weird, but he stopped sleeping with newcomers, and he stopped sleeping around with women, and he stopped sleazing that way. So there's two totally different examples, right? But it's the same thing. How is that aligning with your ideals? That's mine. Thank you.
Very straightforward, very simple. I'm not the arbiter of anybody's sex conduct. God is, okay? And there's not very many places in the book where it says, I will die, and that's part of sex conduct as well. So I'm straightforward, and I can be because I'm armed with the facts about self and have a solution. And that means you're going to drink and use again if this continues to harm others. That's what the book says. There's a paragraph, talks about it, that's how it's going to go. So usually that's what I'll say,
Nice.
And they get to choose whether they're doing it again or not.
Nice. That's way nicer than me.
We're human power. Like, we're not going to drag it out. Like, we're human beings. Like, it gets to a point, like you said, if they're not, like, I have sponsees that are like, I don't have anything for this step and this part of this step. And I'm like, then I can't help you. It's not my experience. I can't leave out those steps. I don't know how to do that, right? I don't know.
It's exciting.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very tough.
Ryan,
We
are
tapped?
you okay?
Good.
He's
Do you have any questions, Ryan?
He's got. He's like, I want private questions.
Jesse.
You know, I just want to.
It's only
you know,
45
start with a
minutes.
question, which, like, you know, I think it's really important, like, as a guy in his first year of recovery, to come to these like workshops. I think like reason hit the nail on the head with like, you know, don't fuck with a newcomer, selfish, dishonest. Since I was a young teen and planning to take forward and then going the next day. So I just want to say thank you for putting this on and like, you know, for guys in this first year, I think it's really important to kind of circle back and start to look at this shit. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. My favorite part was when
That was incredibly